All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Stephanie Lucas, founder and CEO of the Annuity Consultants. We are so glad that you were able to take the time to join us in this heart-centered planning webinar. Our topic today is leading with your heart. So we're super excited to bring this content to you. Each month, we're going to be highlighting a different topic from the series. And a little background about the series. Heart-centered planning is all about connecting with your clients on a soul level so you can give them unbiased recommendations based on their needs and desires. Although every webinar and guide is focused on heart-centered planning, this topic is particularly relevant as it deals with the heart of the matter, the heart. So there's a little bit more content to share about the background of this series, particularly this one, because last year in August, I was traveling in Bali with Whitney, and so I thought I would share this story since she's here with us today. That was the time that this series really was birthed. You know, like I had the idea about this series. I had no idea what it was going to be or what I was going to be bringing to the world, but this series really was, the brainchild of Bali, my experience there. So it was a very, very fun time, and I love that I'm now able to have Whitney on here and talking about this topic because she was there when this came about. So I really appreciate you, Whitney, for being here and being able to share with us today. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We are going to do about an hour, and during the hour's time while I'm asking Whitney the questions that I've got for her today, I'd love it if you guys as audience members would put in questions, and we'll actually answer the questions as we're going through the webinar. So it'll be a little bit more engaging, and you guys can ask questions of Whitney, of her experience, or about the guide itself. We would really love that. And when you enter the question, you can send it to all so everybody knows who put the question up, or you can also select it to send privately if you wish. So now we're about to get started, and once we do get started, the webinar is going to be recorded and available after. So we will be sending a link to you guys with a copy of the guide and a gift that Whitney has for you today. So in the next couple days, you'll get that in your email, and definitely feel free to share it with your colleagues and your friends. This topic and these guides really do apply to all industries, all humans, really. It's not just the insurance industry. And anyways, we're super thrilled to have Whitney with us today. A little bit about Whitney. She is an intuitive healer, spiritual mentor, and founder of Sojourn Healing Collective in San Diego. It's a space for people to come as they are, align with their purpose, and feel supported as they grow. After spending most of her 20s climbing the corporate ladder in the hospitality industry, Whitney began to follow her curiosity around healing. Through her thirst to know more, she connected with healers, teachers, facilitators, and leaders on a shared mission to spread healing to the world. Through these connections, Whitney uncovered her divine purpose as a teacher, facilitator, mentor, and creator of Sojourn. Whitney manages Sojourn in addition to offering private healing sessions, breathwork, Reiki, and customized coaching programs for those seeking further alignment to their soul's purpose and life's work. Welcome, Whitney. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here and share space with you.
Awesome. And actually, I met Whitney at Sojourn. So that's where our journey started a couple years ago, which is really fun. So anyways, today, like I said, we're going to be talking about leading with your heart, but what does that really mean? There are so many words and feelings that come to mind when thinking about the heart. Love, of course, is probably what we think of first. So what does it mean to lead with your heart? Leading with your heart means putting others' needs and feelings above your own. It means giving without expectations of a reward. It means showing genuine compassion, kindness, patience, and empathy for others you interact with. When you lead with your heart, you don't do things out of selfish gain or motives. Instead, you take the pride and ego out of the equation and take a selfless approach, focused first on other people's needs. So that's our definition. I'm sure there are plenty of other ones out there, but that's basically what we took and wrote our guide based on that way of being. So without further ado, we're going to get into the questions. So Whitney, the first question I have for you is, if you would share briefly a history of your life in corporate America before you changed your path and began to lead with your heart.
Absolutely. So I grew up working in the hospitality industry since I was about 13 years old, worked at fine dining restaurant, and then decided that that was my path and that's what I wanted to pursue. And so I went to college for international hotel and resort management. And my dream was to travel around the world and work at different resorts and have a managerial role of some sort. I didn't really know what that would look like. And then after school, I got a job in New York, which was actually my dream job, to work at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. It's an iconic hotel in Midtown Manhattan, if you're not familiar. And I sort of climbed the ladder there. I started out as an administrative assistant in the sales office, and then I did their management training program where you rotate around the hotel and get managerial experience in every department, so you know how everything works together. And then I became a sales manager, and I was on track for another promotion. This was probably about 7 years ago now. And I was a little bit burnt out at the time and decided to take a solo trip to California. And that's really where everything shifted and changed for me. I had the space to really decide that this might not be my path anymore.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to what your role in hospitality is in this industry, because it's all about, you know, taking care of their clients and the people and servicing them in a way that's like for their greatest and highest, you know, needs, right? So, and so once you decided that you were done with that path, tell me about your shift from the corporate world to a more heart-centered way of being in the world.
Yeah, so my journey, it wasn't so cut and dry as I mentioned before. It wasn't like that one moment that I decided. There was a lot that led up to it. And when I was in New York City, and actually even before that, in my late teens, I experienced some health problems and things like that. And I was seeking alternatives to Western medicine for about 5 years or so. And so I stumbled upon different healing practices, yoga, meditation, all these things that are a little bit more mainstream nowadays. And so I was collecting all these little like tidbits that I believed were really helping me to become more aligned with what I wanted to do in the world. And even though that particular job might not have been it at the time, it helped me to see it as like it had a purpose in my life, and I had a purpose to serve my clients. And so over time, I really decided that this might be part of my journey and might be what I would do one day when I exited the corporate world. I didn't know what that would look like at the time. And so when I got to California, I did my yoga teacher training and started to explore other modalities like meditation and Reiki. I got my Reiki training here, and I started to meet all these people who were living a heart-centered life and were living in alignment with what their soul really wanted them to do. And so I decided at that time, like, I really wanted to form a community where all these people could be together under one roof and could have, the greater community come in and feel really supported wherever they are on their journey, whether, they are in corporate America or, have an entrepreneurial job or whatever the case might be, it doesn't matter, just to feel supported and held and like they could go through their healing process, feeling a sense of community.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I know a lot of people in this industry, particularly the stress level that comes along with helping people with their money, right? A lot of people have health issues, and unfortunately, a lot of people put Band-Aids on it instead of getting to the root of the cause, right? And what Sojourn provides really is helping people alleviate those problems through different modalities, right? And bringing different teachers and coaches to the people, right?
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like a buffet where you can choose what works for you
yeah,
and leave the rest.
yeah. That's awesome. I love that. So what does leading with your heart mean to you?
Leading with your heart means, I think, living a life that's really authentic to you and that's beyond what perhaps other people expect of you. And maybe even different from what your ego wants you to do. It's really tuning into what inside of you feels like the most authentic path.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it took, like, I always knew I was supposed to be in this industry. I just didn't know how to be in the industry, right? And so it took me a while to figure out, like, what was my path in it and what was I supposed to bring to it. And through this heart-centered planning series, I found that, which is super exciting. So being able to bring people like you to my community of people in this industry is, it makes me feel really good to expose them to different ways of handling whatever is happening in their lives or in their businesses. So,
I
um,
love that. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's a way to like bridge the gap between your two passions in the world, and so you're living in your wholeness, which is amazing.
yeah, it feels real good. It's about time. So it only took me 20 years to get there. You know, time doesn't matter though, as long as you find it and you know that what you're doing is truly what you're supposed to be doing. So, all right. What are some practical ways you can advise others to lead with their heart on a day-to-day basis?
Hmm, I love that question. I think starting your day really intentionally, which a lot of us are hearing more and more about as meditation and those sort of practices become mainstream. So to have some sort of morning ritual for yourself, whether it's just carving out some extra time with your coffee, or whether you like to journal, or actually have a meditation practice. There's so many forms of meditation. It's not all just sitting in silence. It could be going for a walk, or like I said, journaling, listening to music, just really tuning in with yourself. That's what meditation really is. So that's my biggest recommendation. Um, let's see what else. And then also coming back to that throughout the day when things get really busy, taking a moment for yourself in between the things that you have on your calendar and really coming back to what your perhaps intention for the day is, um, or this innate understanding that you are serving people no matter what you're doing. Um, for you guys, you're with your clients or talking to your clients or supporting them throughout the days. And so coming back to that and understanding like I'm being of service, and how can I serve in a really mindful and authentic way that's both filling up the client and yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I've got a couple things for me. If I've had a difficult call or something's really bothered me or stressed me out, I just go and take a few minutes and do a little meditation to like center myself. And that really helps me get through the day. I've got quite a few advisors and agents that I work with that do meditations before their meetings because they want to be as present with their clients as they possibly can. And once they started incorporating that into their practice and doing it regularly, they have seen such progress and success come from that. You know, they're definitely closing more cases. And, you know, it's not about the money, but also these practices will impact the bottom line if you are constantly focused on that and not the bottom line, right? So I definitely believe that these are important things to incorporate in your daily routines for sure. Thanks for that.
Of course.
So what would your number one challenge, or what was your number one challenge, changing from the corporate paradigm to leading with your heart? Because I mean, you're still running a business. It's not like you left, you know, corporate America. Your business is it is a corporation, right? So going from that structure, like with Waldorf specifically, to running Sojourn, what's your biggest challenge been?
Initially, I think my biggest challenge was in my personal life was just, and that led to my business life as well, but like teaching people that I was showing up differently and being okay with not being accepted for that right away, like with your morning meditation practices or the boundaries that you set in your life. And when we make these decisions for ourselves, sometimes the people around us are uncomfortable with it because we're growing in a new or different direction. And so initially that was my biggest challenge, was to like communicate these changes that I've made in my life with the people around me. And it's still that way. I think boundaries is my number one challenge, is as I'm serving other people and really helping them enhance their lives. Sometimes I can take on too much from people, and it feels like, especially in the spiritual community, there's like this old paradigm of like you have to sacrifice yourself for your purpose or for your mission. And I'm sure you guys have that as well, like feel that way sometimes, that you're giving so much.
Yeah.
So I think the boundaries is still my number one challenge, but it's becoming easier every day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree. Boundaries are a hard thing, especially with technology being in the mix, right? And, you know, people having constant communication and connection to you. And they expect you to always be there and always answer immediately. And it's like, no, you know, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be reactive to every single thing that happens throughout the day. You know, people can wait, and it's okay. And as long as things get done, that's what matters, because you want to give them your best and like quality. And if you're just reacting to everything as it comes to you, you may not be doing it in a way that is really authentic and you know, really heart-centered. So you may have a little bit of resentment in there, and that's something that, you know, I've worked very hard to really try to get things done in a timely fashion, but not feel like it's forced.
Right. And a lot of times what I've learned with this whole boundaries thing is a lot of it is setting expectations. So when you're responding to someone, like maybe you can respond right away and tell them that they can expect a response on Monday or whatever the case might be, like just managing expectations so that they know where your boundary is. And yeah, and then you can live in alignment with your highest self, and they can understand where you're at.
So you're saying communication is important?
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think like that's a reoccurring like common theme throughout like all of these guides. It's like communication is key, you know? And yeah, there's certainly over communication, but I think like as you become more and more aware and become more authentic, your communication skills will grow, and you know, you will not over communicate. That'll, you know, I think those are skills that we can all work on a bit. So I know you answered a little bit of this, but what does your daily practice look like? For example, what structures do you have in place to stay centered and focused?
Um, Always my meditation practice.
Yeah.
One thing that goes along with the boundary conversation is that I schedule out time on my calendar. Like I literally program it in, every day or wherever I have space in my schedule for time for myself or time for my workout or yoga practice. And that helps me sort of balance the business side of me and the spiritual side of me because I can look at my calendar and be like, okay, I have a window of an hour where I get to just be with myself and do something that fills me up, and then I can come back to my work. Yeah, so those are probably my biggest daily practices.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and we talked about, in the last guide about nourishing your personal power, and a big part of all of this is really taking care of yourself. And it's not selfish. It really is like necessary for you to be your best version of yourself to give to the people around you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take the time to nourish yourself. And, eating right and exercising is a huge part of that. So I,
Mhm.
yeah, I commend you for that. Oh, it looks like we have a question. All right. From Sarah. What are a few examples of the boundaries you've created, phone, email, or otherwise?
Um, One thing that I use all the time that I learned in the corporate world was my email out of office. I put that on most weekends or times when I know I'm going to be taking some time off to just give that automatic reply and let people know what's up, and then they understand that they might not hear from me for a couple of days or whatever the case might be. So that's a really good and easy one that you can use frequently. Communicating with my team is really important as well. Like I will not be responding to text messages or emails after 9 p.m. or whatever your boundary is. Just making sure the people that you work with are respecting that and that it and are honoring that decision that you make. And maybe it teaches them to do the same in their life.
Yeah,
Um, does that answer most of it?
yeah, definitely. And those are things too. Like the majority, mine is like 6 p.m. But I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just like, okay. I used to be available to people all the time on the weekends, at night, and now the expectation is set that it's like, hey, if it's an emergency and your client is like, you're gonna have a meeting with your client and you need something, by all means, let me know. Just let's not make it a habit, right? And I think that's a good way to set that boundary as well. Is like, hey, I'll be there for you if you need me. Um, but let's try to make it to where things are planned out in advance and you get what you need from me in advance of your meetings. And if something does come up every now and then, I'm happy to accommodate you. So,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
like helpful with that.
Right. And we can look at the language that we use as well, because there's phrases and things that we use out of habit that promote other people kind of feeling like they can reach out to us at any time. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
contact me anytime, or here's my cell phone number. Just text me if you need anything at all. And that's something that we like naturally say out of being polite, but maybe we could dial that back and let them know like I'll be available between these hours or whatever.
Unless it's an emergency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, great. So, let's see, or actually, how has the pandemic changed the way that you operate in the world and more specifically in business? Now, I know things have changed significantly for your business, and I think this is super relevant to what this industry has experienced and most industries have experienced. So, tell us about that.
Yeah, the pandemic has changed everything for us in business because we used to be in-person classes, experiences, sessions, all of that. We didn't really have anything online other than our registration
Yeah.
and emails and stuff like that. So what the pandemic taught me initially was flexibility and pivoting my business to serve people, to continue to serve people during this time. So my immediate reaction was like, okay, we're just going to have our classes on Zoom. If people are on, we closed down before we were forced to, because I just noticed our teachers weren't quite comfortable and our students as well. Like there were less people coming and there's a lot of fear at that time. So I was like, all right, we're going to go to Zoom and we'll just figure this out. And it's really taught me to come back to basics, like come back to what am I doing in the world and how am I helping people, and how can I change that to help people during this time, because so much has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've pivoted our business to be both virtual and in person at this time. And we've also developed an on-demand platform so people can take classes at any time or just take a meditation in the morning or whatever they need. So it's really taught me to ask my community and tune into what people really need during this time and then show up for them in that way.
I love that. I've been working remotely for 15 years, and I've been doing it from wherever I'm at in the world. And so now, of course, because of the pandemic, I'm here in my house and I've created this lovely studio to do it from. But I've been encouraging the agents and advisors that I work with over this time frame to take more of their work online, and there was a lot of resistance to it. And now it's like they're being forced to do it, right? And so for you as a studio owner and in-person, classes and sessions, you were able to do that, and people worked with you and they were okay with it. And so I love to hear that it's been successful for you guys, because I have a lot of agents and advisors that have kind of not moved into doing this because they believe that eventually they're going to get to be in front of their clients again, which is true. But also, if you could do this part of the time after you're able to get in front of your clients again, because some people would prefer it, it saves you time, it's more efficient. There are a lot of pros to doing business this way. So once things go back to, it's never going to be the normal, right? It's never going to be like it was. But once you can have in-person classes full time, are you guys going to keep an online presence as well?
Yeah, the plan is to definitely continue those 3 offerings, so live stream, in person, and on demand, because we believe that the world has changed, and even the people that do feel comfortable coming back have found that this is more convenient for them, or it fits their lifestyle better, whatever the case might be. So we want to be of service to anyone wherever they're at, whether it's that decision that they make for their lifestyle, if they're not comfortable being out in the world again, or if they are. So yeah, I think it's really important to be mindful and to tune into what your customers are wanting.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So we had a question come in from Jerry. What were some of the obstacles you faced while transitioning to a leading with your heart mindset? Some of the transitions.
Some of the transitions.
Like obstacles in that. I mean, I know you mentioned, the boundaries and things like that, but was there anything that was really difficult?
I think it's looking back, I remember it being difficult at first to continue that practice. It's like it's a muscle. So however you decide to start, whether it's a meditation or an intention for your day, or however you begin this journey, it's really important to not beat yourself up if you miss something or go back to your old ways of being, and understand that it's really going to take time, and it's like a muscle that you're working, and the more that you use it, the better you get at it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, like, when I first started my practice years ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to start with 21 days. Because if you can do anything for 21 days, it can become habitual. So that's what I did. And I like literally had like a little sticky note that I like marked a little check each day that I did it. And once that 21 days was up, I mean, it really did become habitual. And you know, for the past, I don't even know how many years, like I don't really miss meditating on a regular basis. I mean, sometimes I do it multiple times a day because I know how important it is. And when somebody thinks they're like too busy for it, that's when they should be doing it. So it's definitely a thing that we need to be aware of. Okay, another question from Jerry. What are the top 3 things you recommend to someone changing from their old mindset to a heart-centered way of being?
One would be to start small with little actions that you can take every day, like we were talking about, whether it's meditation and intention, or what I used to do is write little sticky notes for myself with like a mantra or something that I was working on. And I would just say that to myself before I walked out the door for the day. Let's see what else. Giving yourself time before reacting to things or responding to people is a huge one. I think we're always in that go 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 mode, or usually in the corporate world, where you know when we're working, we're on and we're working. But if you can, like maybe you're being reactive to somebody and writing a passionate email, and before you send it, maybe you pause and ask yourself if this is the intention and the response that is coming from your heart or not. Is it coming from your ego? Yeah. And a third one, let's see, taking pauses throughout the day to meditate or to go for a walk, or you know whatever really fills you up again. Maybe it's listening to a song or a speaker or anything at all. Just deciding what does fill you up and taking time throughout your day, even just 1 or 5 minutes of your day, and pausing and giving yourself those breaks in between your schedule.
Yeah, yeah, just breathing, right? Take breath.
Could be 5 breaths, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So now, what is your vision and hope for fellow business owners and people in the insurance and financial industry? Like once this whole thing is over, I mean, if it's ever going to be over, like, it feels like it's never going to end. But yeah, what's your hope?
My hope is that we all start living this heart-centered existence, and that translates into our work as well, and that it spreads like wildfire throughout the world, and that we're all, you know, leaving our jobs for the day filled up, because not only did we serve, but in doing so, that filled us up as well, and other people were mindful of us at the same time. Yeah, that's my vision.
I love that. So when you were saying that, I got chills because, you know, we're creating this heart-centered planning series. And it's like, I have spent so much time with my team creating this, and it's been like such a huge part of my life over the last like 8 months, really writing it and fine-tuning it and making it available to people and hoping that they'll get the goodness from it that, you know, I see, right? And it's definitely been a struggle getting it out to the world, because there's so much right now being put out on social media. Everybody's increased the way that they're marketing because they're not out traveling and seeing people face to face. So getting good content out in front of people, it's like 4 times as hard, because your competition is putting out just as much, if not more content, right? And some of them are bigger than me, so they've got bigger marketing budgets. And so, you know, this content needs to be in the hands of all the people, not just the people in the insurance and financial space, but anybody that is basically alive and working. And probably even people that aren't working need to know about this way of being. So I really appreciate you being a part of this and helping us spread the word. So
Thank
yeah,
you. I'm sorry to be here.
yeah. So our next question here is, can you share an example of a situation when you made a conscious decision to lead with your heart? What obstacles did you have to overcome in that process?
The experience that's coming to mind was just the initial process of starting my business and transitioning out of the corporate world at the time was very difficult because as I shared what I would be doing, got a lot of, feedback that wasn't necessarily supportive of what I was doing and or what I wanted to create in the world. And we touched on this a little bit before, but when we're making big changes or moving in the direction of our heart, sometimes other people won't understand that.
Yeah.
And so that was a big obstacle to overcome, was other people's input on what I would be putting out into the world and how I would be changing my life. And the way I overcame it was just continuing to come back to my heart and my why of creating my business. And the more that I did that, I understood that this wasn't really about me. It was about the people that I could share this with. And our our impact on the world, we're always going to be supported if we're following that and following how we can, really create that ripple effect on the world. And whether that means through our income or, through anything that we need, survival wise to be supported, we will always be supported when we're living in our heart.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And it also makes me think about a lot of the people that are on the webinar, they are independent agents and advisors. And so at some point, they probably worked for a larger organization, maybe a big corporation, and they made the decision to go out on their own and to start their own company. And they had those same, struggles where they may have gone from like a 6-figure income with all the benefits and possibly were married with kids, and their spouses were like, oh, well, what are you doing? Like, you're changing everything to pursue this and you don't know if it's going to work. But in your heart, if you believe it's going to work and you do what's right for the right reasons and really bring what you're supposed to be doing, and servicing your clients properly, and really catering to what their needs are, then it is going to work. And yeah, so I completely believe that if you believe it, it's going to be. And if you have faith in it, it's going to be. In fact, we talked about that in I think it was the second guide around having an abundance mindset. It's like, if you wholeheartedly feel that what you're doing is right and you do what's right by all the people, then everything, you're going to be taken care of. So yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right, so I don't know if we have any other questions here. We do. Yay. So from James, are there any books or resources you recommend about learning or leading with your heart?
One that I'm reading right now actually is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. You guys have heard of that. And it's about like breaking free from the structures and the things that we've been taught our whole lives and living from our heart, really. It's such a good book. And it's really popular right now, so you might have already seen it. I was seeing if I had it to show you. I think I have it over here. That's been my favorite one right now. But there's, oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah. You Are a Badass. Have you heard of that one?
Definitely.
It's a good one.
Jen,
Sincere.
yeah, sure. Yeah, totally read that one. And she has multiple ones in that series, right? There's like zero.
Yeah, actually, I'm just rereading. There's one called "You Are Badass at Making Money," so that's all about abundance
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's awesome. And also in the very last page of the guide, we have a resource page that has a recommendation on books, articles, blogs, meditations. So every single guide has a resource page, and it has like, documentaries, different things that are tied to whatever subject we are talking about in the guide. So like I said, I'll be including that in the email with the recording, and you guys will definitely get copies of that. And it looks like we got another question that came in. Oh, this is so exciting. So this one's from Jennifer. Is it possible to put too much of your heart into your work? And how do you find a balance?
it is possible. And I believe that many of us have done that before. And finding a balance, I mean, hopefully we all get to a point where our career is just part of our life and it's part of our purpose, you know? Um, but we still need to create structure around that so that we are filled up in our everyday life and we can serve at our highest capacity. So I really believe personally what's helped me the most is that scheduling out my days really mindfully and putting in that time for self-care, like block it out on your schedule every single day, um, and stick to it. Like don't check your emails during that meditation time. So I think it's really training ourselves in that way. And personally, I live by my calendar, so that's what works best for me. But if there's some other structure that works for you, just sticking to that and making sure that you're, carving time out for these other practices and for your personal life, for your relationships, and all the things that are meaningful for you.
Yeah, I agree. Well, when I started the company 10 years ago, I would work like 18 hours a day. And I was eating terribly. I was not exercising. I was not taking care of my body. I wasn't doing anything that was like beneficial to me. But I was making a lot of money. And that's what I thought really mattered. And so when I really finally, 3.5 years into the business, and I realized how I was burning out, I had to, I really had this come to Jesus, right? And realized that it was like really important for me to carve out that time and take care of myself. And my business has gotten better and better and better because of it. And I've spent less and less time working in it, and it's definitely, I see the progress because of what I've done for myself. So I totally agree with that. Super awesome. Okay, so another question: how do you lead with your heart without being too nice or becoming a pushover people might take advantage of?
I think that goes back to our boundary conversation, and it's so important to identify what your boundaries are. A lot of times things come up in our lives that teach us what they are, like when someone is pulling on us too much or, taking advantage of us, that teaches us where we need to create a boundary. Um, so I think maybe sitting down and laying out your non-negotiables for your life and what you want them, how you want people to treat you, because otherwise people are going to treat you however they want to, however they were, taught to treat other people,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, so I think it's just mapping that out for yourself and understanding how you can create compassionate boundaries that will honor you and help you to continue to serve at the highest level.
Yeah, that's great. I think too it ties to your self-worth, right? And however you see yourself and you're able to show up in the world is kind of how people are going to treat you. So
Mhm.
if you don't value yourself, other people are not either. So it's an important thing to work on for sure.
That's a great point. Yeah, and I always think about like you know, when somebody else sets the boundary for you, and sometimes it like stings a little bit at first, and you're like, whoa, okay, now like I feel where that boundary is, and then you come to really respect it.
Yeah.
So when I think about creating boundaries in my own life, I go back to the people that I now really respect and look at how they've created boundaries for others in their life, and it can be really inspiring.
Yeah, I would agree. I've dealt with that in a lot of relationships. So, like at first, people think I'm a little bit like a jerk, and I'm like, no, I'm holding you to an expectation or a standard that I hold myself to. And you know, once they see that, it's like, oh, they actually respect it, and your relationships grow from that. So it's served me very well. Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see.
you're great at your boundaries. I love
Yeah.
it.
It's, you know, it takes time though to learn to be that way because it's uncomfortable. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable telling people no. And you know, at times in my life I was a people pleaser, so I wanted everybody to be happy and everybody to like me. And the reality of it is like that's not going to happen. Not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I try to like everybody, but I like some people at a distance.
Yes.
So let's see. Do we have any more questions? No, we're all out of questions. All right, cool. So the last one I've got for you is what is the gift you have for the attendees? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. I'm so excited to share a piece of my business and what I do on a daily basis with you guys. So I'm gifting you a complimentary class with Sojourn. So we offer yoga, meditation, sound healing, and breath work classes. And we currently have a pretty robust live stream schedule throughout the week. So we're going to be giving you a promo code so you can take any virtual class on our schedule, complimentary. And if you happen to be in San Diego, you could come to the studio, but I imagine most of you guys are um, around Stephanie, Texas.
They're all around the country.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, they might be in San. I know a couple of them are in San Diego. They're on here.
Yeah,
So
awesome. Yeah, so
yeah,
you could come to the studio. It's valid for any of our classes.
cool. And is that a code that they can share with other people so that they get exposure to what you're doing, or would you prefer them not to do that?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to share it with people around you that you think could benefit from these practices. The code is valid for 2 weeks, so just make sure you use it within the next couple of weeks.
All right, awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. And is there anything else you would like to tell the attendees before we go?
I think we covered most of the heart-centered
Yeah,
topic, and so excited for more people to be living their life in this way. I think it really does change the world.
yeah, it really does. It's exciting. And everybody that does their work, it just, you know, raises the vibration of the collective. So it's definitely something that one person can impact us in a positive way. I love that. All right, so we hope you found this session valuable. We're looking forward to seeing you the next time. So next month, October 20th, we will be doing our webinar on speaking your truth. That one is going to be a great topic. I know I have a hard time with that sometimes, and I've gotten so much better with it. But in the meantime, visit our website, go to the Heart Centered Planning page, and check out our guides. Also, follow us on social media at the Annuity Consultants on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram for more updates. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, Whitney. We really appreciate it. And thank you to all of the attendees that joined us. You guys make it a great day. Bye.